So, Kevin Wilson here.
Dorsey Zinga.
We're here representing our new book that was just launched last month, The Difficulty Demon. We're not going to go into a lot of details here. If you want to, you can visit www.difficultydemon.com. But we will give the synopsis of the book. It's a hallway representing life. There's an analogy of life there. Of course, we're birthed into the hallway. Our character is at the beginning of the book, and at the end of the hallway, of course, is our inevitable death, which is can be uncomfortable. But what we want to understand is we want to live a life of no regrets, and that's kind of what our book's about. Right. And we have to face these different demons as we go. And when we say demons, we're not talking about. I've had some people say, I don't think I have any demons. We're not talking about the boogeyman behind the corner.
No.
We're talking about the demons that plague all of us. We have our sense of worth, our demon of guilt, our demon of control, hierarchy, pessimism, all these different things. But we're here today to talk about the very first door in our book.
Anxiety.
The demon of anxiety, right? We've talked before that we have to get that in check before we do anything else.
Right.
We have a very different lens when we're anxious, I think.
Well, we do. And the other thing is that what causes you anxiety doesn't necessarily cause someone else anxiety. So it's how you want to handle it. It's how you can control it. Sometimes you can't handle the anxiety itself, but you can handle how you control
Sure, of
it.
course. Now that's a fair point. Like we're sitting here, this is intentional being in this room. This gives me very high anxiety right now. Like it's very difficult for me to be here. Now some of you watching, you may have picked up on that right away, and you may be like, where are they at? Others of you may not even realized it, and that's okay. We all have different things that cause us anxiety, but you're right. Ultimately, it's up to us and to identify those things.
And we should say that all of this causes you tremendous anxiety.
Oh, I'm off the spectrum on this. I mean, I'm near seizure mode here. It's hard for me to take this, but that's just me, and that's my anxiety, and that's what I got to deal with. But what I really like though is in the book. It does. It talks about that anxiety from a general level, and then it talks about ways to deal with it, to be effective, and to identify it, to handle it. And one thing I really love, because sometimes we think, these demons are always bad, and that's the thing in our book is that we realize we have to have a collaboration happen,
right?
Because anxiety is not bad. My wife, I remember when we wrote the book, we were talking about it. She said, well, how can anxiety be good? And I said, well, very simple. Put yourself in a watertight room and start filling it up at a foot an hour with water. And at some point, I hope anxiety kicks in because you have a problem to solve. So we have to realize that anxiety in and of itself, you nailed it. It has to do with us. Anxiety is good. It's up to us to identify it and figure out how to use it.
And we also, I think we have to realize that being anxious, like you say, there's good and there's bad. I think a lot of times the anxiety is the push we need to do a little better. Anxiety is that adrenaline rush that makes us jump a little higher, run a little faster, do something that we wouldn't ordinarily do without all of those endorphins dancing.
Of course. So in that aspect, it's great and needed, especially depending on the situation.
And needed.
Yes, absolutely. So we're here. We thought we'd give a little bit of introduction to each book, or each chapter of the book, each doorway. Demon number 1, anxiety. How do you deal with anxiety? What makes you anxious in your life? How are you dealing with it? We all have it. Good for bad. We got to figure it out. So for our last segment here, we're going to change things up just a little bit. See, for those of you on the spectrum like me, see what kind of contrast this gives you. And this is just a little bit different environment. We just wanted to kind of show that contrast. Now again, for some of you that are like me, when you see this change, you feel a little bit better. We were just talking, there's probably just as much stuff here as there was in the other room, but it's just organized and categorized differently. Now it's simpler because they're all books, but it gives a different feel. I know I feel
It's
much more
serene.
comfortable.
It's
here.
peaceful, isn't
It is. It is. And so I got to deal with my anxiety in chaotic situations, but I know that. That's why I put all my stuff like this, right?
And of course, remember, for everyone, we can always breathe.
Absolutely, absolutely, absolutely.
You can
You
breathe.
can just breathe. and-
Sometimes you can truly breathe your way through anxiety.
Absolutely, absolutely. So anyway, check it out, the book, www.difficultydemon.com. We appreciate you spending some time with us today, and we'll fill you in on the next chapter, the next door, here before long. Take care. Thanks.